I'm 80 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that will probably make you uncomfortable. Everything you've been taught about honesty and openness is dangerously incomplete, and the people who told you to just be yourself and share your authentic truth. They either don't understand how the world really works, or they're setting you up for pain they'll never have to experience themselves. You see, I spent the first 60 years of my life being an open book. I thought transparency was a virtue. I thought sharing everything made me genuine, trustworthy, real. But at 62, something happened that forced me to see the truth. And what I've learned in these last 18 years has fundamentally changed how I interact with every single person in my life. But before I tell you what I learned, you need to understand why I'm making this video. I'm not here to make you like me. I'm here because in the time I have left, I need to warn you about mistakes that cost me relationships, opportunities, and decades of peace. Not my peace. Yours is what I'm trying to protect. At 62, my wife of 37 years left me. Just like that. After decades of what I thought was a solid marriage, she packed her things and moved in with her sister. When I asked why, she said something I'll never forget. I can't be married to someone who told me those things about himself. I see you differently now, and I can't unsee it. What things? Things I had shared thinking honesty would bring us closer. My past mistakes, my doubts, my fears, my resentments I thought I'd buried. I had believed that vulnerability creates intimacy. That's what all the books say, right? That's what therapists tell you. Share your truth. Be authentic. Open up. They're wrong. Or at least they're dangerously incomplete. Sitting alone in that empty house, listening to the echo of my own footsteps, I realized something terrifying. I had given people ammunition against myself. I had handed them the map to my weaknesses. And I had done it willingly, proudly, thinking I was being evolved and emotionally mature. Here's the biggest lie you're probably living right now. The people who really love me will accept everything about me. True friends can handle my whole truth. Honesty is always the best policy. If I hide parts of myself, I'm being fake. Let me save you 60 years of regret with this truth. Some things should stay inside your head. Forever. You think sharing everything makes you authentic. It doesn't. It makes you vulnerable in ways you can't predict or control. You think people want your complete truth. They don't. They want the version of you that fits comfortably in their life. You think honesty always strengthens relationships. It doesn't. Sometimes it plants seeds of doubt that grow into forests of resentment. I learned this the hard way, over and over again. Let me tell you about the first thing I wish I'd never shared. My salary. I was 43, doing well, finally making good money. At a family dinner, my brother asked what I was earning. I told him. Exact number. Thought we were close enough for that level of honesty. You know what happened? Everything changed. Suddenly, every dinner check became awkward. Every birthday gift was analyzed. When I couldn't loan him money years later, he brought up that number. You make X, and you can't help your own brother? That one moment of transparency poisoned our relationship for 20 years. 20 years, because I answered a question I should have deflected. The second thing I regret sharing, my struggles with my children when they were teenagers. I had a colleague, someone I considered a friend. We'd have lunch, talk about work, life, family. During a particularly hard time with my son, drugs, rebellion, the whole nightmare, I opened up. Shared the fear, the shame, the feeling of failure as a parent. 2 years later, I got passed over for a promotion. Found out later through another colleague that my friend had expressed concerns to management about my family problems and whether I could handle the stress of the new position. My vulnerability became his leverage. My confession became my ceiling. Third regret, my doubts about my career choice. I was 51, having a crisis about whether I'd chosen the right path. At a dinner party, after a few drinks, I admitted I sometimes wondered if I should have been a teacher instead of going into business. That I felt empty chasing money. That I questioned the value of what I did. My wife, the same one who'd leave me 11 years later, threw that back in my face during every argument we had after that night. Well, you're the one who chose money over meaning. You're the one who admitted your life is empty. I had given her a weapon, and she used it over and over. You think people forget your confessions? They don't. They file them away. And when they need ammunition, in an argument, in competition, in moments of their own weakness, they pull them out and use them against you. Here's what haunts me most: the personal resentments I shared about my mother. She was difficult, controlling, critical. And during a particularly vulnerable conversation with my daughter when she was in her 20s, I opened up about how hard my childhood had been, how my mother's criticism shaped my insecurities, how I'd struggled to feel good enough my entire life. My mother died 6 years ago. And you know what my daughter said at the funeral? "I always wondered why you weren't closer to Grandma. Now I understand." But here's the thing: my mother had changed in her later years, had softened, had tried in her way to make amends. But my daughter never got to see her clearly, because I had painted a picture that couldn't be unpainted. I had robbed my daughter of her own relationship with her grandmother. That's the thing about sharing your truth. It becomes other people's truth too, and you can't take it back. I had a friend named Robert. We worked together for 25 years. He died last year at 79. Heart failure. At his memorial service, his son shared something that gutted me. Apparently, in Robert's final weeks, he'd expressed regret about sharing his infidelity with his wife 40 years earlier. He'd had a brief affair, felt guilty, believed honesty was the right path. He confessed. She stayed with him, but their marriage was never the same. For 40 years, she carried that betrayal. For 40 years, he carried her resentment. At his deathbed, he told his son, "I thought honesty would free me. Instead, it imprisoned both of us." She never forgot. I never stopped paying for it. Some truths don't heal. They just create permanent wounds. Is that the legacy you want? Fourth thing I regret sharing: my financial mistakes. In my late 40s, I made some bad investments, lost a significant amount of money. I felt ashamed, stupid. During a family gathering, I shared what had happened, thinking vulnerability would make me more relatable, more human. You know what happened? For years, every financial suggestion I made was dismissed. Well, considering your judgment, even when I'd learned from those mistakes, even when my advice was sound, that confession had permanently damaged my credibility. I had branded myself as financially incompetent in their eyes. Forever. Fifth regret: my health problems. When I was diagnosed with depression in my mid-50s, I thought being open about mental health was important. Progressive. I told friends, colleagues, family members. I thought it would destigmatize the issue. Instead, every bad mood was analyzed. Every disagreement was attributed to my condition. Are you taking your medication? Is this the depression talking? People stopped seeing me. They saw my diagnosis. I became my illness in their eyes. The person I was got erased, replaced by a label I had volunteered. Sixth thing I wish I'd kept to myself: my past before my marriage. Specific details about previous relationships. Intimate details I thought my wife would appreciate knowing. After all, we were partners. No secrets, right? Wrong. Those details became landmines. During arguments, they'd surface. During her insecure moments, they'd haunt her. I'd given her ammunition to hurt herself with, and by extension, to hurt me. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Seventh regret: my political and religious doubts. I was raised in a particular faith, a particular political tradition. As I got older, my views evolved, changed. I shared these changes with family members, thinking honest dialogue was valuable. It created divisions that never healed. Family members who could discuss anything with me suddenly became guarded. Holidays became tense. I wasn't trusted the same way. I had stepped outside the acceptable circle, and I'd done it